Welcome to Along for the Ride on the Mystery Train. This is Ty here with my bride, and we are picking up where we left off last time. She had started asking questions about a review of Epic, Elvis Presley in Concert, that I wrote on mysterytrain.net back in early May. May 6th is when it was published. By the time you're hearing this, we're probably in August. This is live from the beach, though, live on tape delay.
Even though we are taking a break and on vacation, we rode the mystery train out here to the beach, and I still have questions, no matter where we may ride the mystery train. In your review, picking back up, you have the beautiful 1970 marquee shot that the R is missing from comedian Sammy Shore's name and the S from the Imperials. Was the comedian Sammy Shore, was he there at the same time Elvis was? Like, why was his name up there as well?
So when you went to see the Elvis Presley show, let's say you went to the midnight show, and I don't have the sequence of this. Essentially, you would hear Sammy Shore as the comedian opening act. You would hear the Sweet Inspirations, and you would hear the Imperials. Now, I don't know if the Sweet Inspirations and the Imperials performed the same night or different nights, but essentially they were the opening acts for Elvis. So then about 1:30 a.m., Elvis would come out.
Oh.
There'd be an intermission in there somewhere, too. When you're watching near the end of an Elvis, if it was the midnight show, if you're watching near the end of that midnight show, it's actually, like 2:30 in the morning at that point, which for Elvis is great. We talked in another episode about the orchestra members and how some of them looked like they were like bored. It could just also be they were really tired. 2:30 in the morning.
So the Imperials, were they in Epic? I know the Sweet Inspirations were, but...
There's 3 male gospel groups that are shown in Epic. One is from the 1950s. It was the Jordanaires, which you asked about on a previous episode. One was the Imperials, who performed with Elvis, at least on stage, from like 1969 to, I believe, 71. And then also picking up in 1971 was J.D. Sumner and the Stamps. So the Imperials are seen in the 1970 That's the Way It Is footage. When you see the male gospel group near the Sweet Inspirations, that's the Imperials.
Oh, okay.
In the 1972 footage, when you see that group, that's J.D. Sumner and the Stamps.
Okay. Did he ever have all 3 groups with him at the same time that you're aware of?
No.
Okay.
As if talking about the male groups.
Yes. I appreciated that you called out that they edited out the Mystery Train portion of the medley. Tiger Man. Considering this site is the Mystery Train, I must point out, I do like Tiger Man. You know why I like it? That's the one they do the strobe lighting, I think. And he seems really jazzed up about the lighting. As far as you're aware, was that the lighting and kind of that approach to that song, was that typically the way he did it when he was in concert with all the strobe lights?
The only footage I've seen of the Mystery Train Tiger Man medley has been from the same concert engagement. I've seen 2. And it happens in both of those, but they're only a day apart or 2 days apart. So I don't know if that was the typical Vegas setup. He started doing that medley in 1969, the year before That's the Way It Is. I don't know if they were using the strobe lights for that, like already. I know that strobe lights, to some extent, were also used in Elvis Aloha from Hawaii in 1973, so 3 years later. There's a strobe light effect during Suspicious Minds.
I found it interesting, too, that Epic was the first place that showed what Elvis was doing when he was saying to Sammy Davis Jr., he was saying something like, "That's all I can do," when he was tap dancing for him. So I found that interesting that Epic was the first time visually people had that in its official capacity. I don't know if it had been previously released in unofficial capacity.
Right, from an official point of view, that was the first time that was explained. You could hear it because, like I said, all of these concerts have been out for years. So you could hear Elvis saying that. So it was fun to see what was happening. Like I said, there's tons of smarter people than me out there, but I didn't realize that Elvis was tap dancing during that scene in honor of Sammy Davis Jr.
Yeah, I like that scene. And I like that they also, Epic showed Sammy Davis Jr.
Yes.
He was
Yeah, he shows up in two different scenes.
Yeah, so I like that they were able to have footage of him, I guess, from the That's the Way It Is documentary. Is that
That's
how
right.
they got?
Yeah,
they got it?
that's where all of that was from. The tap dancing, the Sammy Davis Jr. kind of standing up in the audience. That part was used in That's the Way It Is. And then the after show party footage of Sammy Davis Jr. used in the special edition, the re-edit that came out. Well, it came out originally in the year 2000, but it was released for home versions in the year 2001.
I also noticed in your post on May 6th of 2026, you talk about the Polk Salad Annie sequence. As you know, I've brought up Polk Salad Annie several times in the past, but
I know you love your polk salad.
I do love that polk salad. I appreciated what you called out as well, the editing, the way they did this sequence together. I don't know how many different shows that was, all that footage for that one song, but I found that impressive. The editing work impressive as well.
Yeah, I can't remember off the top of my head. I think it was at least 3 shows and at least 2 rehearsals combined together.
Okay.
Again, you're probably listening to this, if you're listening to this. It's probably August, but this is actually June that we're talking. So it's been over a month since I've actually seen Epic. But it was definitely an incredible bit of editing by Jonathan Redman on that song.
And what is the play the hell out of it scene from the original?
So in the original Elvis, That's the Way It Is, he sings Polk Salad Annie. And then after he finishes it, he kind of takes a break and is walking around, kind of catching his breath. And he interacts with the audience a little bit. And as he's doing that, the band starts to just play a little ditty in the background. And then he hears this. He wants to tell him, no, don't be afraid. Go ahead and play. And then he says, play the hell out of it. And then they start really going. So that was in the original Elvis, That's the Way It Is. Unfortunately, they didn't use that in the special edition, which is really the main version that's used now of That's the Way It Is. The special edition came about originally just to take out those fan comments, but then you ended up really re-editing the entire movie. Of course, because the fan comments aren't in it, it's a better movie. But in some ways, they improve it, but in other ways, the original is better. It's actually kind of annoying that there's these 2 versions of the movie. Some of the original stuff is actually better. As a Star Wars fan, I'm used to that.
And I appreciated that you called out the Make-A-Wish program in relation to Denise Sanchez, the young fan that unfortunately passed away of cancer. So thank you for calling that out. That is a really good program. For anyone that's not familiar with it, thank you for including the link there as well.
Make-A-Wish didn't exist back then, but it kind of reminded me of that kind of program. Make-A-Wish came about a few years later after that.
I think they're a good organization. I love how you bring up that large necktie, the largest necktie you've ever seen.
It is the largest necktie I've ever seen. Have you seen a larger one?
No, I have not. And I feel like we had concluded the last time we talked about it, we didn't really know much about it.
No.
Where it came from.
Yeah.
Was it a gag? Was it...
I mean, it had to be a gag. I can't imagine that it wasn't.
Was it just some new wardrobe wear, that he was trying out? Had a fan given it to him?
Yeah, it could be any of the above. Fans gave him some weird stuff, so it's very possible.
Did he ever wear it out publicly?
I should hope not, but that's the only scene I've never seen that tie outside of that particular setting.
Okay.
And don't need to see it again, as a matter.
You called out something here that I really enjoyed when Elvis is having fun with Bill Baize, that gentleman hitting the falsetto notes. That's what made me kind of think about that and laugh about that. The fact that I had picked up on it, and then to watch Epic and see Elvis kind of having fun with it. So that was funny to me too. That he can hit that note, and did hit it many times.
Yeah, Bill Baize could sure hit the high notes.
He really could. And he seemed to have fun too, and Elvis was kind of almost poking at him a little bit about it. He seemed to be laughing and having a good time with it.
Yeah.
I like to see the sense of humor side of Elvis, like how he would tease the sweet inspirations. And so I like that Epic put that footage in there, some of that footage in there, that more playful side. The April 14th, 1972 concert was the first time he did Burning Love live. Was this one of the songs where he had the notes?
Yes, he had the lyrics in his hand.
Okay, so then you talk about the 2015 If I Can Dream album.
Yes.
Elvis's vocals with new backing supplied by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra. What do you mean by new backing? Had someone else sang?
Basically, they took Elvis's voice, just his vocal track, and put new music behind him, recorded by the Royal Philharmonic Orchestra, RPO.
Why would Epic use that?
That is a good question. My guess is because it was recorded in 2015, it probably had a better sound they could play with versus the 1972. Now, I personally would never have used that. I'm just trying to guess why they would use it. Essentially, they were able to take something that had already been remixed and then kind of apply their remix to that remix versus going to the original recording and applying their remix to that. I'm not an expert on any of this kind of music production remix type of stuff. Take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. But as a listener, I was definitely disappointed because Burning Love is one of the great rock and roll songs. So that orchestrated version just doesn't do it for me.
As far as you recall, was that the only song like that where they used something very recent, like a remix or?
No, that's not the only one.
Oh,
There's several RPO songs they used as the bass in Epic. But that is the one that really stood out and annoyed me. But no, there's others. Oddly enough, the RPOs, they do get credit in Epic.
Oh, really?
But not the original band members.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah, so when the credits go up for the music, RPO is credited for the songs that they are in. Not all of the songs have them, but the ones that do have them are credited.
A little later in the post, you bring up when Epic promised found footage. You weren't expecting it to be of Parker applying suntan oil. So was that part of the footage that was found in is it the mines? Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Okay.
But no.
Oh.
You're saying it right.
Okay.
No, that wouldn't have been in the mine footage.
Okay. Well, help me figure that out then.
The mine footage would have been any of the Elvis That's the Way It Is and Elvis on Tour sourced material from 1970 and 1972.
Okay.
That's the stuff that was stored in the mine by MGM, who was later bought by Turner, who was later bought by Warner Brothers or some line of succession like that. That was actual, like, true film for those movies, those two documentaries. I think they had, like, maybe 60 hours worth of film in there, something like that. The Tom Parker footage is some kind of home movie footage. I don't know the source of it. I don't know where they got that from. I know they worked with Elvis Presley Enterprises Graceland on some footage. It's possible that when Graceland acquired the Parker collection, this home movie footage was in there. Mm-hmm. Or it's possible it came from somebody else or some fan. I don't know the source of that footage. I do know it wouldn't have come from the salt mines because that's a whole different project.
The other footage that's an Epic, it seems like, I'll say a home video with Elvis kind of looking a little younger and they're sort of, I guess, on a boat or deck or...
Yeah.
That did not come from the salt mines either then?
No, it did not. I don't know the source of all of that home movie type stuff. Some of it I've seen before, some of it I have not. For all I know, it was all out there before. I don't know.
I also wanted to note my applause and gratuity for you including the bra on Elvis's head.
Yes, I had to mention that. I think it's the second time it's gotten mentioned on the Mystery Train. And then, of course, I think you brought it up on, this will be the third episode now of Along for the Ride.
It's just very funny.
I know.
The fact that Elvis wore a bra on his head while singing, and not for like a second or two. It seemed like a pretty lengthy,
They only showed a portion of that song, so we didn't even see him take the bra off. So
That's
we don't know how long he
Maybe he did the whole half of a concert.
Yeah, we don't know.
The bra.
We don't know how long he had that bra on.
If there's anyone out there listening to this whose bra that was, or they know whose bra it was, we would like to hear from them. Reach out. Reach out to us and tell us, how long did that man have that bra on his head?
See, that was Hampton Roads. There is bootleg footage of that, so we might have a shot at figuring that out if we dive into the bootlegs, which I normally don't. But it's probably on YouTube. Although I'm not searching for Elvis bra on YouTube because who knows what'll come up.
No, I agree.
Some stuff I just don't want to see.